The flowers smell like old sugar and something underneath that sugar you cannot name. You are standing at your father's funeral, and two men near the guest book are not grieving. You notice them the way you notice a wrong sound in a quiet room, not immediately, but unavoidably. They wear dark coats that haven't dried from the rain. They hold no flowers. They sign nothing in the guest book. They are watching the faces of people who came to mourn, the way a landlord watches tenants in a building he is about to foreclose on. Taking inventory. Cataloging attendance. A clipboard would not look out of place in their hands. The priest finishes. Someone sobs. A woman 2 rows ahead of you presses a handkerchief to her face with both hands, and you think for one terrible second, that's more grief than I've managed to show. Then you remember your father would have hated a scene. Evo decurs. Your father. 41 years in this city. 32 years working in a bakery district where he knew every landlord, every health inspector, every code officer by name. A man who reported a faulty gas line to the city before his own kitchen was finished, because someone else's kitchen was on the other side of the wall. A man who, when he found a wallet on the 7 train, waited 40 minutes at the station booth to hand it in. Not because the law required it. Because he believed that things returned. He was too honest for this kind of ending. The burial is fast. Clay soil in November goes in hard. You stand beside your mother and watch the casket disappear into ground that doesn't care. And then a man materializes at your shoulder. Calm. Measured. No expression your face can read. My name is Corin Weil, he says. The 2 men by the guest book are still watching. Corin has an envelope. He doesn't hand it to you at the grave. He waits. Follows you to the car. Speaks quietly while your mother is still surrounded by church women, voices rising and falling in the particular music of condolence. Then he sets the envelope on the hood of your car like it weighs nothing, because to him it doesn't. Inside are 7 pages. Your father's name appears 11 times. His signature, that compressed, backward-leaning handwriting you've known since you were 8, appears on a repayment agreement for a commercial loan. $186,000. Drawn from a lending entity called Meridian Capital Solutions LLC. First tranche dated 31 months ago. Final demand notice dated 6 days before he died. You stare at the signature for a long time. You are a municipal code inspector. Your job is documentation, permits, disclosures, structural filings, occupancy certificates. You read paperwork the way a surgeon reads tissue. You know what forged looks like. You know what pressure looks like. You know what a man signs when someone is standing too close. And the signature looks real enough. That's what breaks you a little. Not the number. The signature. He never borrowed money, you say. Corin nods slowly, like he expected this. Like he has heard it before. He borrowed it for the shop, he says. Working capital. Cash flow issue. He didn't want to trouble you. That last sentence is a blade. Thin. Inserted cleanly. You know your father would never have borrowed $186,000 from a private lender without telling you. But the signature sits on the page, and for one terrible second, one small cold second, you hesitate. You feel the floor shift. That second is the most dangerous moment of your life, and you don't know it yet. Corin puts the envelope back in his coat. We're not asking for cash, he says. He pauses. We just need certain violations to disappear. You tell yourself it is temporary. This is the sentence you live inside for the next 19 days. It is temporary, you say it the way people say it about bad weather, about hospital stays, about situations that have edges. You say it because you need it to have edges. The first favor is so small it almost isn't a favor. A citation date. Building ID 7 to 4417 on Marina Street. A complaint filed October 11th about blocked egress on the second floor. The complaint is real, you saw the blocked egress yourself, documented it, photographed it. All Corin needs is the date moved 11 days forward. Not erased. Just moved. The violation will still be addressed. The owner still has to fix it. All that changes is a number on a form. You change the number. Your mouse cursor doesn't shake. Your hand doesn't shake. That bothers you more than anything. 3 days later, a basement complaint in a mixed-use building on Veldon Avenue gets flagged for delayed review. Standard language. Administrative backlog. Nothing unusual. 5 days after that, a permit hearing gets misfiled under an incorrect parcel code. Human error. Happens twice a month across the department. No one notices. Nothing explodes. No sirens. No one calls. The city does not crumble. That night your mother calls you. She's telling a story about your father, the one about the time he drove 2 hours in a snowstorm to return a vendor's overpayment of $40. She laughs while she tells it. Her voice is still bruised at the edges, but the laugh is real. She's proud of him. She has always been proud of him. You sit on your kitchen floor with your back against the refrigerator and the phone pressed against your ear, and you say, I know, and, yeah, and, he really did that, in the right places. Private humiliation is a quiet thing. It does not announce itself. Then comes the boxing gym on Callum Road. You inspect it on a Thursday morning and find something that stops you cold. There is no legal owner on record. You've inspected 214 properties in 6 years. You know what legitimate paperwork smells like. You know what absence smells like. The boxing gym on Callum Road has no registered owner, no primary licensee, no lease disclosure, and $4,200 in weekly cash flow moving through a membership system that carries 11 active members. 11 people paying dues to keep the lights on in a gym that seats 60 and runs equipment worth $90,000. The math does not work unless the math isn't the point. You start pulling adjacent files. A late-night commercial kitchen 2 blocks east. Registered as a catering prep facility. You inspect it at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, the owner has requested an off-hours visit, unusual but not illegal. Behind the dry goods shelving, behind 40-kilogram flour sacks stacked 3 deep, you find pharmaceutical packaging. Not prescription bottles. Raw materials. Powders in sealed vacuum bags with no labeling, cross-stacked with commercial-grade supplies like they are just another ingredient. You file nothing. You photograph everything. 6 days later, a shuttered daycare facility on Wren Park Road. Closed since 2019, officially. Inside, in the old administrative office, someone has built a document production line. Template lease agreements. Stacked identity verification files. Synthetic employment histories printed on paper that looks real until you hold it at an angle to the light. Someone is manufacturing people. Constructing financial histories for individuals who may or may not exist, and feeding those histories into rental applications, credit systems, small business registrations. You start tracking the LLC names across unrelated properties. Meridian Capital Solutions. Bluemont Holdings. Three Tides Property Management. You have seen all three on filings across different boroughs. Different industries. Different inspectors on record. One name connects them all. Corin doesn't call you. He doesn't need to. He sends one text: "Thank you for your continued professionalism." Your father's memory is the real hostage. You have known this since the envelope. But now you understand something worse. You are not helping one criminal. You are maintaining an ecosystem. Then you find your father's name in a bakery inventory log dated 31 months ago. You go back through everything. The bakery on Delcroft Street where your father worked the last 4 years of his life. You request the operational records from the municipal archive, a normal pull, logged under your inspector credentials, nothing suspicious about it. You spread them on your kitchen table on a Sunday morning and go through them the way he would have gone through them. Line by line. Date by date. Cross-referencing against the documents Corin showed you at the car. 6 months before your father died, he submitted a formal complaint to the Department of Commerce about unusual flour shipment manifests. Shipments arriving from a supplier he didn't recognize, at volumes that didn't match the bakery's output, signed off by a manager whose name appeared on no employment record. He submitted the complaint in writing. He followed up twice by phone. The department logged the complaint, assigned it a case number, and buried it. 3 weeks after his second follow-up call, your father signed a form. It was presented to him as an insurance discrepancy form, a routine document used when shipment receipts don't match delivery logs. He was asked to sign it by a manager he trusted. The form was 1 page. The language was technical. The kind of language that looks like it means one thing when it means another. His signature on that form was photographed, digitally extracted, and repurposed. Dropped into a loan agreement he never saw. Attached to a debt he never carried. Used to manufacture a financial crime that required a dead man's name because dead men cannot correct the record. He tried to fix it. He filed the complaint. He made the calls. He did everything a man like him would do. And the system swallowed his effort without a sound. Your father was buried twice. Once in the ground on a Thursday in November. Once in a file cabinet, somewhere in a records department, where his complaint sat unread until it expired. For one moment, just one, you are afraid that you misread him. That there is something he hid. Then you pull the bakery's employee file records and your blood goes cold. The bakery owner cried at the funeral. You remember this now with a precision that feels like sickness. His name is Aldrich Penn. He stood near the back. He cried, real tears, or real enough, and he shook your mother's hand with both of his and said your father was a good man, a real good man, and your mother thanked him, because that's what she does. Aldrich Penn has been feeding his own employees into the fraud network for at least 14 months. Not the living ones. The dead ones. Former employees. Workers who came through the bakery on informal labor arrangements, cash wages, no formal contracts, common in this industry. When they died or moved on and left no traceable next of kin, their names didn't disappear. They were harvested. Social security numbers, employment history, addresses. Enough biographical scaffolding to build a financial ghost. Fake loan recipients. Shell property owners. Insurance policyholders for buildings that burn. Credit applicants who never existed in any room but exist permanently on a spreadsheet somewhere. Honest people converted into debt instruments. Their entire lives, their labor, their names, their deaths, turned into machinery. You begin building your own file. Not an official one. A private one. Photographs taken with your personal phone at angles that don't look intentional. Timestamps logged in a private calendar with mislabeled entries. Permit copies printed under the guise of reinspection documentation. Duplicate filings pulled through channels Corin's people don't monitor. You are not impulsive about it. You are slow. Careful. Methodical. The way your father was methodical. The way he filled out every complaint form twice, once for the record, once for himself. Something has shifted in you. You stop asking whether the system is dirty. You already know the answer. You start asking how deep the dirt goes, and how much of it you can map before someone notices you mapping it. Corin notices before you ever say a word. He texts you on a Wednesday evening, * you seem tired. Get some rest, *. He knows. He's always known. It doesn't come as a threat. It comes as a bribery complaint. Filed anonymously against your inspector credentials. Specific. Detailed. It names 2 of the properties you were coerced into clearing. It names dates. It uses the correct permit language. Someone who knows the system wrote it, or someone who knows it. Your supervisor calls you in on a Tuesday morning. He doesn't accuse you of anything directly. He just looks at you differently now. The way people look at someone who might be contagious. Within 2 weeks, a story circulates in the department. You tampered with inspections. You took money. Nobody says your name loudly, but your name is in every quiet sentence. You can feel it the way you feel a change in air pressure, before the storm, not during it. The person you have been closest to for the past 8 months stops answering your calls the way they used to. Slower responses. Shorter messages. Then a conversation where they say they just need some space right now, which in that particular voice means they have heard something and they are deciding whether to believe it. Then the documents reach your mother. Anonymous envelope. No return address. Photocopies of the loan agreement. Your father's signature circled in red marker. 3 lines of text typed across the top, your son knew about this. She doesn't call you immediately. She waits 2 days. When she calls, her voice has something new in it, not anger, not accusation. Doubt. A small, terrible fracture in the certainty she has carried about both of you. That is the worst thing Corin has ever done to you. Not the complaint. Not the rumors. Not the lost relationship. The fracture in your mother's voice. You finally understand what he is. He doesn't need to hurt you physically. He can walk into every room you love and change the temperature. Then a building catches fire. 3 people die. You find out at 6:14 a.m. on a Friday from a news alert on your phone, lying in bed in a dark apartment, and you just lie there for 47 seconds staring at the ceiling. 47 seconds of stillness before something inside you cracks along every fault line at once. The building is on Ferrara Cross. A mixed residential commercial structure, 6 floors, 23 units. You inspected it 8 weeks ago. You found violations on floors 2 and 4, inadequate fire suppression coverage, an improperly sealed shaft between floors 3 and 4, a secondary egress route that had been quietly converted into storage. Corin's network owned the building under a shell entity you now know by its LLC name, 3 Tides Property Management. You softened the violations. You didn't erase them. You reclassified them as low priority pending remediation. You noted the improperly sealed shaft as an aesthetic issue, not a structural fire risk. You did it the same way you had done it 11 times before, carefully, administratively, with just enough technical language to make it look like judgment rather than interference. The fire started in the shaft between floors 3 and 4. At 4:20 a.m., when no one was awake enough to run fast enough. 3 residents. A woman named Daria Tull, 58. A man named Ronaldo Voss, 34. A child. The news does not yet release the child's name. You tell yourself for 3 weeks that you didn't start the fire. You tell yourself the building had multiple failures. You tell yourself the ownership structure, the absentee landlord, the deferred maintenance, those are the real killers. You recite this to yourself at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and whenever you stand in your kitchen trying to eat something. But you know what the chain looked like. You walked each link. You bent several of them yourself. You stop being able to say it isn't your fault. Not because someone tells you. Because you run out of language to believe it. You request a meeting with a contact inside the city-state task force. And you agree to testify. The hearing room has fluorescent lights that flicker at the far end. No cameras. No gallery. A sealed proceeding, 3 investigators, 1 department attorney, a court stenographer with a machine that clicks like a quiet clock. You sit in a chair that was not chosen for comfort and you begin. You have brought 847 pages. Permit logs with duplicate entries. Timestamps showing the gap between inspection and filing. Photographs of pharmaceutical packaging and document production equipment. LLC cross-references traced across 6 boroughs and 4 property categories. A private timeline, maintained in a mislabeled calendar, spanning 9 months of coercion. You talk for 4 hours and 11 minutes. When you are done, the lead investigator looks at you for a long time without writing anything. Then she writes something. Then she closes her folder. The testimony leaks within 11 days. Not from the investigators. From somewhere adjacent, a department attorney's office, maybe, or someone who recognized a property name and made a call. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It is in the world now. You lose your job on a Thursday. Standard language, administrative review pending the outcome of an ongoing investigation. Clean termination with no severance. Your badge is collected at the front desk by someone who used to say good morning to you every day and now cannot hold your eye. Your mother has to move. The apartment she's rented for 19 years is managed through a company that suddenly begins an eviction process citing lease violations she has never received written notice of before. Cohen disappears before any arrest warrant is executed. No forwarding information. No last sighting. He is simply gone, the way administrative people are gone when they know which door to exit through. Justice feels absent. You are standing in an empty apartment, in a city that still runs the same way it always ran. Then, 18 months later, a legal filing changes everything. The bakery owner is indicted on 14 counts. You read it on a Thursday morning in a diner 3 blocks from your mother's new apartment. You read it twice. You eat nothing. You fold the notification printout into quarters and put it in your coat pocket and you carry it around for the rest of the day. 2 senior housing officials resign under investigation. Their names appear in coverage that is brief and buried, a paragraph in a municipal affairs section nobody reads. No perp walks. No press conferences. Just names in a document and the quiet retirement of certain authority. A restitution fund is announced for the victims of the Ferrara crossfire. $2.4 million allocated through a city settlement. The fund is modest relative to what was lost. But the fund exists, and it has a name attached to it in a public record. The debt against your father, Ivo de Kers, $186,000, Meridian Capital Solutions LLC, is voided in a civil court ruling. The court finds the agreement was executed fraudulently using a signature obtained under false pretense. The ruling is 4 pages long. It will not be widely read. It runs in no headline. It will never trend. You collect the certified copy from a records office on the 4th floor of the Municipal Services Building, on a Tuesday afternoon, wearing the same coat you wore to the funeral. You hold the paper and read your father's name in clean declaratory language. Ivo de Kers. Victim of financial fraud. No outstanding liability, You stand there for a while. Your mother frames the declaration. She hangs it beside the photograph of him from 1987, the one where he is standing outside the first apartment he ever rented in this country, squinting into summer sun with an expression that contains no performance. The house is gone. Your old life is gone. The career you spent a decade building, gone. But the lie is gone too. You cry in the back of a public records office where nobody sees. You are holding the paper that gives your father back his name. Nobody sees. That's fine. He knows. Let me ask you something. At what point in this story did you feel it shift, from a story about corruption to something personal? Was it the envelope at the grave? The first date change? The fire? The mother's doubt? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment on this channel. And if you know someone who has ever had the system use their honesty against them, share this with them. Ivo de Kers deserved better. So did they. Subscribe for stories like this every week.